For 18 months, she was my anchor through hell. When my career collapsed and friends abandoned me, only she remained. "We're a team," she whispered. Then I discovered she was the one orchestrating my destruction all along. What if I told you that the person who whispers "I love you" every morning, who holds your hand during movies, who knows exactly how you like your coffee, could be the same person systematically destroying every single aspect of your life with the precision of a surgeon and the patience of a predator? What if every kiss was calculated? Every tender moment was a manipulation tactic from a psychology textbook, and every "I'm here for you" baby was actually part of an elaborate plan designed to watch you crumble from the inside out while they collected payment for your destruction? My name is Marcus Thompson. I'm 31 years old, and I survived something that nearly cost me my sanity, my career, my family relationships, my friendships, and ultimately my will to continue living. This isn't just another relationship gone wrong story. This is about professional psychological warfare disguised as unconditional love. And it lasted 18 months of pure hell that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. Before we dive into this nightmare that changed everything I thought I knew about human nature, I need you to hit that like button right now. Leave a comment telling me if you've ever felt like you were losing your mind in a relationship. Share this video with someone who might need to hear it, and make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, because this story is going to challenge everything you think you know about love, trust, and the depths of human manipulation. Trust me when I say you need to hear every single detail of this story until the very end, because the truth is more terrifying and more sophisticated than anything you could possibly imagine. Let me paint you a picture of who I was before this nightmare began, because understanding my life before Vanessa is crucial to comprehending how completely she was able to destroy everything I had built over a decade of hard work and sacrifice. I was a senior financial analyst at Morrison & Associates, which is one of Denver's most prestigious investment firms that manages portfolios worth over $3 billion for some of the wealthiest families in Colorado, Wyoming, and Utah. I had worked my way up from an entry-level position straight out of college, spending countless nights studying market trends, building financial models, and proving myself to clients who trusted me with their life savings and retirement funds. My salary was in the mid-six figures. I owned a beautiful downtown condo with floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the Rocky Mountains, and I drove a BMW M3 that I had saved for 3 years to buy without taking out a loan. I met Vanessa Chun on what seemed like a completely ordinary Tuesday morning in March 2022 at Cafe Luna, a trendy coffee shop in the heart of downtown Denver's financial district where I would grab my morning espresso before heading to the office. She was sitting alone at a corner table near the window, reading what appeared to be a fixed psychology textbook, which should have been my first red flag, but hindsight is always 20/20, isn't it? She had this incredible warmth about her, this genuine smile that seemed to light up the entire room when she looked up and caught me staring at her from across the cafe. Her long black hair was perfectly styled. She was wearing a professional navy blue blazer that suggested she worked in corporate, and she had these intelligent brown eyes that seemed to see right through me in a way that was both exciting and slightly unnerving. Our first conversation lasted nearly 5 hours, which should have been another warning sign because normal people don't spend half their day talking to strangers in coffee shops, but I was completely captivated by her intelligence, her wit, and her apparent fascination with everything about my life and career. She claimed to be a senior digital marketing specialist at TechFlow Solutions, which was supposedly a major software development company that created enterprise applications for Fortune 500 companies. She said she had an MBA from the University of Colorado Boulder and spoke 4 languages fluently: English, Mandarin, Spanish, and Korean, which made her seem incredibly sophisticated and worldly. Looking back now with a clarity that only comes from surviving psychological manipulation, I can see that every single detail of Vanessa's supposed backstory was perfectly crafted to make me feel like I was the hero who could finally give her the love and stability she deserved. She claimed to be starting fresh in Denver after ending a 3-year engagement with someone she described as emotionally unavailable and threatened by her professional ambition. She said her ex-fiancé had tried to control her career, had isolated her from her friends and family, and had made her feel like her dreams didn't matter, which made me want to be everything he wasn't. She asked all the right questions about my work, seemed genuinely fascinated by financial markets and investment strategies, and had this incredible way of making me feel like the most interesting and accomplished person she had ever met. When she gave me her phone number at the end of that first meeting, she wrote it on a coffee shop napkin with a little heart drawn next to it, and she included a handwritten note that said, "Thank you for reminding me that there are still good men in this world." I still have that napkin locked away in a safe deposit box now, not as a keepsake, but as evidence of how perfectly she executed her performance from the very first moment we met. She had studied me, researched my background, and crafted the perfect persona that would make me fall completely in love with someone who didn't actually exist. The first 6 months of our relationship were absolutely magical in ways that still make my skin crawl when I think about how calculated every single moment was. Vanessa seemed to anticipate my every need before I even knew I had them. She would wake up 45 minutes before my alarm every single morning to prepare my coffee exactly how I liked it. 2 sugars, a splash of heavy cream, served in my favorite blue ceramic mug that my grandmother had given me for my college graduation. She would leave little handwritten notes next to the coffee with messages like, "Have an incredible day. My love, I'm so proud of everything you accomplish," or, "Remember that you're amazing and everyone at your office is lucky to work with you." These weren't just generic love notes. They referenced specific clients I was working with, projects I was stressed about, and personal goals I had mentioned in passing. She remembered absolutely everything about my work schedule, my personal preferences, my family dynamics, and my deepest insecurities with a level of detail that should have been impossible for someone I had only known for a few months. She knew that I preferred Thai food when I was stressed about quarterly reports, that I liked to watch old action movies when I needed to decompress after difficult client meetings, and that I had a complicated relationship with my father who had never really approved of my career in finance. She would surprise me with my favorite pad thai from the specific restaurant across town that I had mentioned liking once, 3 months earlier. She would queue up Die Hard or Terminator 2 on movie nights without me having to ask. She would know exactly what to say when my dad called with his passive-aggressive comments about how I should have gone to law school instead. But underneath all this apparent perfection, there were subtle manipulation tactics that I completely failed to recognize because they were wrapped in what seemed like genuine love and concern for my well-being. Vanessa had developed this incredibly sophisticated way of asking probing questions about my work that went far beyond normal curiosity about your partner's career. She wanted to know the specific names of all my clients, the exact amounts of money I was managing for each account, my access levels to different computer systems within the company, the security protocols we used for handling sensitive financial information, and even seemingly innocent questions about my passwords and login credentials. When I would question why she was so interested in these specific details about my work, she had perfect responses that made me feel guilty for even being suspicious. "I just want to understand your world, baby," she would say with those beautiful brown eyes looking hurt and confused. "Your success is my success, and I want to be able to support you and understand the pressure you're under. I've never dated someone as accomplished as you, and I'm trying to learn about your industry so I can be a better girlfriend. How could I argue with that? How could I tell someone who claimed to love me that I didn't trust her interest in my career?" She also had this incredibly subtle way of commenting on my friendships and family, relationships that I didn't recognize as systematic isolation at the time, because it was always framed as concern rather than criticism. It started so gradually and so small that I barely noticed it happening. Little observations about how my best friend Jake seemed to drink too much at social gatherings, or how my sister Rebecca was a little dramatic and attention-seeking when she called with her relationship problems. Vanessa never directly told me to stop seeing these people, because she was much smarter and more sophisticated than that kind of obvious manipulation. Instead, she would plant seeds of doubt with concerned questions and observations that made me start questioning my own relationships. "Do you think Jake might be jealous of your promotion?" She would ask after we'd spent an evening with my college friends. "I noticed he seemed kind of bitter and sarcastic when you told him about your raise, and he made those comments about how finance guys are all greedy." I'm probably just being oversensitive, but it felt like he was trying to make you feel bad about your success. Or she would say things like, "I love your sister, I really do, but have you noticed that she only calls when she needs something?" It's always some crisis or drama that requires you to drop everything and rescue her. I just worry that she's taking advantage of how generous and caring you are. Within 8 months of dating, I found myself naturally spending less and less time with my friends and family members, and more time isolated with Vanessa in what I thought was romantic bliss but was actually a carefully constructed psychological prison. She had become incredibly skilled at scheduling romantic weekend getaways, surprise date nights, and important couple activities that would mysteriously conflict with every social event, family gathering, or friend meet that I had previously committed to attending. She would suggest these alternative plans with such enthusiasm and apparent spontaneity that I felt like the luckiest man in the world to have a girlfriend who wanted to spend so much quality time together. But she was never confrontational or demanding about these scheduling conflicts, which is what made her manipulation so insidious and difficult to recognize. Instead of saying, "Don't go see your friends," she would look genuinely sad and disappointed while saying things like, "Of course you should go to Jake's birthday party, baby. I just thought we could finally take that weekend trip to Aspen that we've been talking about for months. But I understand if hanging out with your college friends is more important. I don't want to be the clingy girlfriend who keeps you from the people you care about." She would deliver these guilt trips with perfect acting, making me feel like I was hurting her feelings by choosing anyone or anything over our relationship. Of course, I would cancel my plans to stay with her every single time because I thought I was being a loving, committed boyfriend who prioritized his relationship above all else. Looking back now, I can see that this was exactly the response she was calculating and manipulating me to have. Every time I chose her over my friends or family, I was reinforcing her control over my social connections and proving to myself that she was the most important person in my life. She was systematically training me to isolate myself while making me believe it was my own choice, driven by love rather than her psychological manipulation. By our 10-month anniversary, I was completely isolated from most of my support system without even realizing it had happened so gradually and systematically. My relationship with my sister Rebecca had become strained and distant because I kept missing her birthday parties, family dinners, and important life events whenever Vanessa had planned something special for us. My friendships had deteriorated to the point where Jake, Marcus, and my other college buddies had eventually stopped inviting me to social gatherings because they knew I would either cancel at the last minute or spend the entire time texting Vanessa and leaving early to get back to her. But I didn't see this as problematic isolation. I saw it as being deeply in love and correctly prioritizing my romantic relationship, exactly like Vanessa had systematically trained me to think and feel. The first major crack in what I believed was our perfect, loving relationship appeared when I received the biggest promotion and career breakthrough of my entire professional life. After 4 years of consistently working 60 to 70-hour weeks, exceeding every performance target set for me, and building a reputation as one of the most reliable and successful analysts in Denver's competitive financial industry, I was offered the position of senior portfolio manager for high net worth clients. This promotion came with a salary increase of over $90,000 annually, my own team of 7 junior analysts, a corner office with mountain views, and the kind of professional recognition and respect that I had been working toward since my very first day in the financial services industry. I was absolutely ecstatic and over the moon with excitement about this incredible opportunity, and I couldn't wait to share the news with the person I loved most in the world and thought would be equally thrilled about my success. I stopped by Vanessa's favorite French bakery on my way home from the office, picked up a bottle of Dom Perignon champagne from the upscale wine shop next door, and practically ran up the 3 flights of stairs to our shared downtown apartment with the biggest smile on my face and my heart pounding with excitement. I had been secretly planning to propose to Vanessa within the next 3 to 6 months, and this massive promotion and salary increase meant we could finally afford the kind of elaborate wedding she had been dreaming about since she was a little girl. But when I burst through our front door calling her name with pure joy and excitement, ready to celebrate the biggest achievement and happiest moment of my professional life with the woman I wanted to spend forever with, Vanessa's reaction was completely unexpected, utterly confusing, and frankly heartbreaking in ways that I couldn't understand at the time. Instead of the excitement, celebration, congratulations, and proud support that I was anticipating and hoping for, she seemed almost disappointed and upset, like I had just delivered terrible news instead of sharing the best news of my entire career. She forced what was obviously a fake smile across her face and said, "Congratulations, baby," in a tone that was completely flat and emotionless. But there was something cold, distant, and almost sinister in her beautiful brown eyes that I had never seen before in our entire relationship. Something that made my stomach drop and my excitement deflate, even though I couldn't understand why or what it meant. "That's wonderful, Marcus," she continued in that same hollow tone. "But you know what this means, right? Much more responsibility, much longer hours, much higher stress levels, much more pressure from demanding clients, much more travel, much more time away from home, much more time away from us, much more time away from me." Over the following weeks and months, what should have been the most successful and happiest period of my entire career became increasingly stressful, confusing, and nightmarish because of Vanessa's escalating and increasingly obvious manipulative behavior that I still couldn't recognize for what it really was. She started showing up at my office building unannounced multiple times per week, always with some excuse like being in the neighborhood for client meetings or business lunches, claiming she thought she would surprise me with my favorite coffee, homemade lunch, or afternoon snack. But she would stay for uncomfortably long periods of time, making awkward small talk with my colleagues, asking probing and inappropriate questions about our work processes, client information, and security protocols. My team members and colleagues throughout the office began making uncomfortable jokes about my overly attached girlfriend and started asking me privately if everything was okay at home, if there were relationship problems they should be aware of, or if Vanessa was dealing with some kind of personal crisis that might explain her constant presence in our workplace. I found myself constantly making excuses and apologizing for her behavior, telling people that she was just being incredibly supportive and interested in my career success, even though something deep inside my gut was telling me that this level of workplace interference and boundary violation wasn't normal, healthy, or acceptable in any way. Then the really sinister and calculated sabotage began to happen with increasing frequency and sophistication, and I started to feel like I was slowly losing my grip on reality, my professional competence, and my basic understanding of cause and effect. Important financial documents, client reports, and presentation files would mysteriously disappear from my computer overnight, forcing me to frantically recreate entire weeks' worth of work from scratch just hours before crucial client meetings and board presentations. Complex financial models and investment analyses that I had spent days or even weeks carefully constructing and perfecting would somehow become corrupted with impossible mathematical errors, and backup files would be inexplicably missing or damaged on our company's supposedly secure shared drives. At first, I tried to rationalize these incidents as technical glitches, server problems, or my own carelessness due to the stress of my new position and increased responsibilities. But the timing and frequency of these problems seemed almost deliberately calculated to cause maximum damage to my professional reputation at the most critical moments of my career advancement. My direct supervisor, Mr. Harrison, who had been my mentor and biggest supporter for years, started scheduling more frequent performance review meetings where he would express genuine concern about my organizational skills, attention to detail, and ability to handle the increased responsibilities of my promoted position. The breaking point and most humiliating moment of my entire professional life came during what should have been my greatest triumph and career-defining presentation. I was scheduled to present our quarterly portfolio performance results to a room full of 43 of Colorado's most important financial decision makers, including pension fund managers, family office representatives, institutional investors, and ultra-wealthy individuals who collectively trusted our firm with over $800 million in assets under management. This presentation was my opportunity to prove that I deserved my promotion and could handle managing the most prestigious accounts in our company's history. The truth came to light in the most unexpected, devastating, and life-changing way possible during what started as a completely ordinary afternoon in late October. I had been living in this nightmare of psychological manipulation and professional sabotage for nearly 18 months, and I was at the absolute lowest point of my entire life, unemployed, financially dependent on Vanessa, isolated from all my friends and family, and genuinely questioning my own sanity and competence. I had noticed over the previous few weeks that Vanessa was spending an increasingly unusual and secretive amount of time on her laptop computer, always closing it quickly and defensively whenever I approached or entered the room where she was working. She had been claiming that these long hours on the computer were just confidential work projects for her marketing company, client presentations that required privacy and discretion, or personal emails and conversations with her family members who supposedly lived across the country in California. I had always respected her need for privacy and professional boundaries, never questioning her explanations or trying to invade her personal space, because I had always respected her need for privacy and professional boundaries, never questioning her explanations or trying to invade her personal space, because I genuinely believed that trust and respect were the foundations of our relationship. But one afternoon, while she was taking what seemed like an unusually long shower, nearly 45 minutes, I heard her laptop chime with what sounded like multiple notification alerts. I wasn't planning to snoop or violate her privacy, but a message preview appeared on the screen that made my blood run completely cold and changed everything. I thought I knew about reality. The notification was from a group chat, and I could see just enough of the message preview to make my heart stop beating and my hands start shaking uncontrollably. It read, Phase 4 complete. Target completely isolated, financially dependent, and psychologically broken. Bank accounts identified and access obtained. Rachel confirms identity theft documentation ready. Recommend final extraction within 72 hours. Make it look like suicide if possible to avoid investigation. I stared at those words for what felt like hours but was probably only seconds, trying to process what I was reading, trying to understand how those words could possibly be connected to my life and my relationship with the woman I loved more than anything in the world. With trembling fingers and a racing heart, I scrolled up through months and months of detailed conversation history that revealed the most sophisticated, calculated, and professionally orchestrated psychological destruction campaign I could have never imagined in my worst nightmares. There were screenshots of my personal documents, copies of my work emails, detailed psychological profiles analyzing my personality weaknesses and emotional triggers, financial records showing every dollar in my bank accounts, credit reports, social security information, and step-by-step plans outlining exactly how to systematically destroy my career, isolate me from my support system, manipulate my mental health, and ultimately steal my identity and life savings before disposing of me permanently. The group chat participants included not just Vanessa, but an entire network of professional con artists, identity thieves, and psychological manipulators who had been operating this elaborate scheme for over 5 years. There was Rachel Morrison, who specialized in document forgery and identity theft. David Kim, who was their technology expert responsible for hacking email accounts and social media profiles. Jennifer Walsh, who was apparently the psychological manipulation specialist with a background in clinical psychology. And at least 7 other people whose roles included everything from hiring actors to impersonate their targets, to money laundering to what they euphemistically called final cleanup operations. They had been targeting successful, lonely men across multiple states, systematically destroying their lives and stealing their assets before moving on to the next victim. As I continued reading through this digital evidence of my own systematic destruction, I discovered the most heartbreaking and soul-crushing truth of all. Vanessa Chen wasn't even her real name. Her real name was Victoria Santos, and she was a 34-year-old professional con artist from Miami with a criminal psychology degree and a specialty in what they called long-term romantic infiltration operations. Every single thing I thought I knew about her was a carefully constructed lie designed to make me fall in love with a fictional character while she methodically destroyed my real life. She had been hired by my ex-girlfriend Jessica, who I had dated briefly 3 years earlier and who apparently had never gotten over our breakup. Jessica had paid Victoria $50,000 upfront with a promise of an additional $75,000 upon successful completion of what they called total life destruction with asset extraction. Every kiss, every I love you, every tender moment, every sexual encounter, every shared dream about our future together, it had all been an elaborate, professionally executed performance designed to get close, enough to me to destroy me from the inside out while stealing everything I had worked my entire adult life to build. It's been 14 months since I discovered the truth, contacted the FBI, and helped build a federal case that ultimately led to the arrest and conviction of Victoria and 6 members of her criminal organization. The legal process was long and traumatic, but seeing them face justice was crucial for my healing process. I've slowly started rebuilding my career in financial services, though I had to relocate to a different city and essentially start over from the beginning. More importantly, I've learned to trust my instincts again, recognize manipulation tactics, and understand that real love should never make you question your own reality or isolate you from the people who truly care about you. The psychological scars will probably never fully heal, but I'm stronger now than I was before this nightmare began. If you're in a relationship where you're constantly questioning your own memory, your own perceptions, or your own sanity, please listen to that voice inside you that's telling you something isn't right. If someone claims to love you while systematically isolating you from your friends, family, and support system, that isn't love, that's control and manipulation. If your partner knows details about your life that you're certain you never shared, or if strange things keep happening to you that they always seem to have explanations for, trust your instincts because they're probably trying to warn you about something dangerous. You don't have to endure psychological abuse disguised as love. You deserve peace, respect, and genuine affection from someone who wants to build you up, not tear you down. What happened to me was extreme, but emotional manipulation happens every single day to people just like us. If this story resonates with you or reminds you of someone you care about, please share it, because sometimes knowing you're not alone and not crazy can literally save someone's life. Remember, you are worthy of real love, and real love never requires you to lose yourself to keep it.